Hi everyone, Justin here with Red Wagon Organic Farm in Boulder, Colorado. I'm out here in our Anaheim field, in our Teller Farm location. Today we're going to be discussing pepper harvest. That includes characteristics that we look for when harvesting certain fruit off a plant, proper harvesting technique, as well as changes in harvest criteria from variety to variety. So let's get started. So before we go out in the field and harvest a representative sample, let's take a look at some Anaheims I've harvested earlier today. Anaheim peppers have this long shape to them. It's kind of in the shape of a chili pepper. They are chili peppers, but like most peppers, they start out green and they're more mild at this stage. So more of a broader range of people can enjoy them at this stage. When they start getting spicy and blush red, which is what color they will blush when they're ripe, they get fairly spicy and it can be hard for a lot of people to find uses for them. So this is the stage we're going to harvest a bunch of them. Some of them will be sold like this in the CSA, and then some of them will roast and give out as roasted chili peppers. So I have harvested a few different ones here. I have a little pile of ones that I think are right to come off the plant and ones I think should have stayed on the plant a little bit longer. So let's take a look at some of the different characteristics. Okay, so here's my pile of ripe, in quotations, green peppers. You can see that they're really sizable. The color of them obviously is pretty green. As the fruits get larger and larger, they will tend to get a little bit darker in color, and that could be a good indication that they are maybe ready to come off the plant. One of the best ways to tell if these if these fruits are ready is by squeezing them. So I like to apply the same amount of force to squeezing a pepper that I would maybe to, say, a tube of toothpaste. So I'm not applying so much force, but it's enough that I'm squeezing this and it really, really does not yield. It's really, really firm, and that's what we're looking for. This will have a nice thick wall and it'll have a little bit nicer taste. Smaller ones are going to taste a bit bitter and they're going to yield a lot easier to my fingers. So again, I'm squeezing this as if I would squeeze a tube of toothpaste. Now, whereas a toothpaste tube would probably yield, when I do this, this firmly bounces back. And that lets me know that it has a nice firm wall, it's going to be nice and crisp, and it's going to taste pretty good. So that's a really important criteria. We should be squeezing all of them as you go through the field. And a good way to kind of get your head around this is maybe just don't look at them right away. Maybe take a few seconds and just reach into a plant and start squeezing different fruits on the plant. You'll be able to tell pretty quickly if there's a firm one, because some of them will be really soft and yield a lot, kind of like these ones over here. You can see that it's definitely softer. It's not firming. This is the same amount of pressure as I would give to a tube of toothpaste again, and it's definitely giving a lot more way. Same with this one here. I'm definitely squeezing this just as much as I was squeezing the big ones, and they're giving a lot more way than the other ones will. So if you go ahead and squeeze certain ones on a plant without looking at them, it can be pretty easy to tell what is ready. That being said, if you only do that, you're going to end up with this problem. Here's a nice big firm one, but look at this. This has been sun scalded. That is a defect or a deformity that happens when the leaves of the plant do not shield it broadly enough, or do not shield it from the sun well enough. And you can see that this is a soft spot. The pepper is already going bad. So despite this being a really beautiful big pepper, this spot pretty much makes it compost. This cannot hold well. It will not store in the fridge. It's going to go bad. So we have to be careful when we're harvesting these that we're checking the plants. You're just doing a quick once over. You're just, turning it around in your hand. This will go for every single type of pepper you harvest, but you need to be really careful that you're not missing stuff like this, because these are bad spots and the pepper is not going to be able to be sold in the CSA. So I talked about wall thickness a few seconds ago. I just cut 2 of these peppers open. I cut one that I think is not ripe, and I cut one that I think was ripe open. So let's just compare the wall thickness between these 2 peppers here. So you can see the bigger one has much thicker walls to it, which is why when I'm squeezing it, it really does not give way as much. Nice thick walls, lots of structural integrity, whereas the smaller one, it's just not developed. When they're smaller like this, they're probably going to have a more bitter taste to them. They're not going to be as substantial of a plant. We're going to have to pick more of them to get the weight we want. So we want to leave these on the plant. That's really important. And one thing you might notice, and I don't know how subtle this is or not, but when they're smaller, I dropped the other one that I had, the small one I had. Maybe here it is. They have a lot more wrinkling on the surface of them. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little bit subtle. You can see it sometimes. I mean, this side's a little bit less wrinkled than this, but if I feel this, it definitely feels like a little bit ridgier than this one. This one definitely feels a bit smoother. I think that's what happens. The skin kind of stretches out as they get bigger, and the skin and the walls get thicker and thicker. So this wrinkled surface, this more wrinkled surface, is a good indication that this plant should be, this fruit should be staying on the plant a little bit longer. So as far as that's concerned, color, wall thickness, as well as size. Those are the 3 main criteria to look out for. Okay, here I am getting ready to harvest some Anaheims for CSA. I have my harvesting crate here, and here are my plants. So one thing we want to do, like with every crop, is we want to harvest with intention. That means we want to be really careful about getting into the plant, moving the leaves around, and checking all around. Now, don't do this violently, obviously. You don't want to like destroy the plant. The branches of peppers can snap fairly easily depending on how laden they are with fruit. So be gentle but firm with the plants. So I'm moving them out of the way, I'm looking around, and I'm feeling the different fruit on the plant to see what is ripe and what's not. So, and I will grab my camera and bring it down here. I have found myself a ripe fruit on the plant. I've squeezed it. It feels very firm. It looks large. It has a nice color to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it up top where the stem meets the plant there, and I'm going to pull up. Always up. I'm pulling up on this, and I'm then just giving a quick once over to check for any sun scald. And I do not see any sun scald, so I'm going to keep it and put it in my bin gently. Always place them gently in your bin. Do not throw them in the bin because you can break them or damage them. And then I'm on to the next one. And you can see I'm just gently but firmly moving the plant out of the way, searching for my next fruit. And here I found one that has a bunch of sun scald on it right there. You see that nice big scar? If you see that, get that fruit off the plant. So I'm pulling that off the plant and I'm chucking it out of the way. Those are just robbing energy from the plant. We don't want those on the plant. So I'm gonna keep looking through this plant. Do I see any more on here? I'm feeling this one down here. This feels really firm and big back here. I'm gonna grab it and pull it out. And there's another one. I don't see sun scald on it. So I'm gonna take it and gently place it in my crate. And that's how you harvest the Anaheims. We're gonna talk about bell peppers. We are gonna be harvesting only green bell peppers. Obviously nothing has really ripened at this point. These peppers are a really important part of our CSA as well. They're pretty ubiquitous. Everybody seems to really enjoy cooking with them. So again, it's very important that we are giving them a nice quality product. Here I've harvested a few at different sizes. We'll go over a few separate criteria to consider when looking through these. So the first one again is the color. Obviously these are going to be green. They're not going to change color right yet, and if we do start to see ripe ones, that's probably a good indication that they've gone bad, either through sun scald or bug damage or something like that. The peppers at this stage of the year should not be ripening. It's only the 1st of August, so we wouldn't really expect them to be ripening on their own. Again, wall thickness is really important. We want to have nice thick-walled peppers. Those will be a good indicator that they're ready to come off the plant. Now, I say the word ripe, even though these are green bell peppers, but you technically would not say this is a ripe pepper because it's green and it hasn't blushed its color yet. But at the same time, green bell peppers are still a ubiquitous type of produce that's used in you find them in grocery stores and everywhere. So just because these aren't per se ripe doesn't mean they're not ready to take off the plant or cannot be taken off the plant. That's why we use that criteria of the wall thickness. The other one we talked about is kind of like the way that the skin looks on the plant. Is it really wrinkly? Is it really smooth? So these ones I've harvested have a range of different wall thicknesses. I'll get a little bit closer so everybody can see this. Okay, so this nice large one I found, this one that's like about the size of my hand, again, I'm giving it the same type of amount of pressure as I would of a tube of toothpaste, and instead of yielding, it bounces right back. If I'm quiet, you might be able to even hear some of the crunching noises. Let's see if you can hear that. Not sure if anybody heard that, but it's making these like nice popping sounds when I squeeze it gently. Good indication that that's ready to come off the plant right there. Here's another one. This one is a little bit deformed, just where it's grown around the stem of a plant. It's still nice and firm, and it's gonna be perfectly fine to cook with. It's just not perfectly pretty like the other one is. So don't leave stuff like this on the plant. Definitely take ones like this. It might look a bit ugly, but it's gonna taste just as good. So again, nice firm skin. I'm giving it a few squeezes there, and it's really, really, really nice. Yeah, very firm. Here's another one. Let's take a look at this one. So this one, I squeeze it, and it yields a lot more than the other two did. Especially right here. Yeah, it's very, very soft right here, for sure. It has like one or two spots that maybe I would consider like firm enough, but really for the most part, it is not ready to come off the plant. So we want to be conservative at first. We want people to get this down before they start just giving something a quick feel and ripping it off. So, you know, when in doubt, leave it on the plant. It's not going to hurt it. It's just going to make it better. Here's another one I found. This is really small. This one I just found on the ground, so I'm not exactly sure. It's pretty firm, but look what happens when I turn it over. Uh-oh, it's got a giant sun scald spot right there. So it might be like a firm one for the most part. It's still got some squishy spots on it. But if you see anything like this, any type of blemish like this, really doesn't matter how small it is. The pack shed people will probably decide to throw them out because they're just not going to hold in somebody's fridge. They don't have any storage capacity at that point. So if you see stuff like this, this is gone. Here we are in some bell peppers. Right here on this plant, I found a nice big root ripe pepper, ripe, so to say. And again, like the other one, hello, Mr. Ladybug, I am going to just pull up on this and it comes right off. And actually, uh-oh, it has a sun scald spot down there. So unfortunately, that's too soft. It's not going to hold, and I'm gonna have to toss that away. So let's keep looking here. Maybe I'll find a good one and not just say I did. Here's another one I just found. It came right off. I'm gonna do a quick once over. It looks good to me. So I squeezed it a few times, nice and firm, and there's no sun scald on it. So there you go, a nice ripe fruit. And I'm gonna keep going down the bed and doing the exact same thing, squeezing peppers, looking for sun scalded fruits, no matter how small they are. Like here's another one that's really nice and small. It's got a nice bad spot there. So just like with the Anaheims, getting the bad fruits off the plant is gonna help kind of divert that energy it would put into making that fruit bigger and putting that energy into setting more fruit. So that's what we wanna do. And that's how you harvest the bell pepper. We also grow a few varieties that grow not green, so before they are ripe, they are different colors. Here's two of them. This white variety is called Bianca, is a white pepper. It does not turn green at all. It always stays white until it's ripe. And we have one called Islander. Islander starts out purple on the plant. When they're really tiny, sometimes they're green, but for the most part, they're purple. When these are ripe, they start to blush a reddish, but they never lose the purple entirely. I found this one that was starting to blush, but that's only because it had sun scald. But you can see it has red on it. That's what color they'll be when they are ripe. We still harvest them when they're purple, but these are colors that are not, these are not green peppers, so we will never see them as green when we are harvesting them. Yet again, it's the same criteria for the other bells and the Anaheims we were talking about earlier. We take them on the plant, we give them a firm squeeze like we're squeezing a tube of toothpaste, and they should rebound really nicely. You can kind of hear it. Let me see if I can get it to make the noise. There you go. Here's another one. This one's a bit smaller. This variety is a bit smaller. We'll usually harvest them at around this size right here. But again, don't just go off of size. Go off of the firmness, the color, and then the size will also be a good indicator on top of that. Here's a smaller one. This one's not ripe. You can see I press on it and it does not yield. It yields pretty well. Like it yields pretty softly, right there especially. So this one would have been need to be left on the plant a little bit longer. Same with the white ones, the Bianca. These are nice and big. Now, this variety is very prone to sun scald. It's very difficult to find these without sun scald, so this one's a little bit nicer. It's just a little bit more deformed. This is just dirt on there, so that's nothing to worry about. But nice and firm. These ones will also take at a smaller size, like the Islander. So these are not going to be like massive jumbo bell peppers for sure. And I see another one. This one also has a small mark on it. We will determine if that's going to be a problem or not. So anyway, there are a few other examples of some of the other bells that we will be picking. Islander and Bianca. One more variety here before I go. This is a variety I believe called Inferno Banana. I believe it's also called Hungarian hot wax pepper. These are very, very spicy. So once in a while, I will say that one way to check if a pepper is ready is just by tasting it. I would not recommend that with these ones. These are very hot. Unless you really like spicy food, these will burn your mouth pretty bad. But the same criteria stands, kind of like with the Anaheims. They're pretty similar to Anaheims in shape, you can see. Maybe a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner, but we're looking for the same things. We want them to have nice thick walls that do not yield when I squeeze into them, and we want them to have really nice smooth skin that's not super wrinkled. Here's one I took off the plant that's probably needs to use you could use a few more days or so or something like that, but you can see again it's pretty soft. If I bring it closer to the camera and let it focus in there, it doesn't yield really. It yields a lot. So this one would probably be left on the plant. It's also got some strange scarring, but anyway, that one is a bit too small. Whereas these ones over here, nice and firm, nice smooth skin, those are good to take off.